religious studies, theology and philosophy at Bill Secondary School, not too far away from here, and inshallah he's going to present a short talk on how to be a good ambassador for Shia Islam. Please welcome him with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى الطاهرين الحمد لله الذي جعلنا من المتمسكين بولايته أمير المؤمنين علي بن أبي طالب قال Imam الصادق عليه السلام, be an adornment for us and do not disgrace us, and call towards us using your words, not your actions, so that when people see you, they'll say he is the Jafari. So, I want you to imagine, and please bear with me, that there is on another planet an alien nation, and they want to find out about the human race. So the leader of the aliens, he gets the community together and he says, right, I want to go to this place called Earth and I want to find out about human beings. And they ask him why. He goes, well, I've got chapter 2 verse 30 of the Quran in front of me, and in this chapter, which is a very fascinating chapter by the way to read, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling the angels that he's going to place an authority on the earth as a human being. And the angels ask him, they ask God, why are you going to place someone who's going to cause bloodshed? And Allah replies that I'm not going to place my authority on the unjust people. You know what I know. And the leader of the aliens says, I want to find out more about these leaders on the earth. So can you please go to the earth and make me a report about them? So the commanders say, fine, we'll go. So the aliens on their spaceship, they go from, let's say, Mars, and they land on Earth, and let's say they land in America today. And they land near the White House, and they see Mr. Trump there. And they want to make a report on these human beings. They've never met a human being before in their lives. So they sit down, and they watch Mr. Trump speak. And he starts talking about his policies and his views. And then they ask themselves, is this what humans are? Then let's go somewhere else. Let's say they go to the bad parts of Syria, okay, where those people rule. Because maybe there's more humans here, they might be better. They go to those parts of Syria that are occupied, and they see the brutality that we see on the news today. And they think again, really? I thought these humans were in charge of the earth. Now I know why Allah said the bloodshed part, or the angel said the bloodshed part. And they get quite confused. So they go back to their planet and they tell the commander of the aliens that these human beings, they're not as good as I thought. And they tell them all the bad things they did. Now, why did I say this? It's just an analogy. Because we as human beings, we are made up of several things. We have our biology, but we represent and are ambassadors of several things that we encounter. So for example, before every other thing, we are first of all human beings. So my talk today is about how to be an ambassador for Shia Islam. Before I even get to that, I want to start from the very, very basics. So as human beings, I want us to imagine that if a different species came to us today to learn about us, are we in this room today going to give a good impression of human beings? Because if they go back to their commander, you want to give them a good report. But the ones they see aren't very, very good. So the first thing to look at is us as humans. But let's say we don't care about humanity, we care about other things. There's several other things we're made up of. So for example, we are made up of our gender. And we represent our gender. So you're either male or you're female. So when I encounter another human being, I have to ask myself, am I representing my gender well? Now just the other day, you saw the Women's March happening in many parts of the world, particularly in America and over here. And you ask yourself, did the females there, some of them, represent their gender well? Many would say no. There were several extremist feminists. But even on the other side, you have a new trend now called meninists, who look down upon females as if they're superior, as if they're inferior. So the next step to look at is our gender. Do we represent our gender very, very well? But let's say we don't care about that. The next thing that we're made up of is our race and our culture. Now, I'm sure many people in the generation before me, when they came to this country, if they weren't born here, they experienced racism. And if not then, they might experience it now. So again, you ask yourself, when I speak to another human being, am I representing my race well and my culture well? Or are they going to think, no, this race, I've seen one person like this, so therefore they must be like this. And unfortunately, this is the way the world is. I see one type of one person, and that means everyone is the same. So now the picture's getting bigger. That my actions will make a whole nation of people look bad. If, for example, myself, I'm of Pakistani origin, if I do something that makes my race look bad, I've let down a whole country. I've let down a whole generation. I've let down millions of people along the world. So again, that's another thing we're made up of, our race and culture. But let's say we don't care about that. Now it gets a bit more serious. The next thing we represent is our parents. Now, as a teacher, I can tell you that when I say to a student, you're detention, they don't care. But when I say I'm going to call your parents, then it kicks in. Sorry, sir. I won't do it again. Because we represent our parents. And I'm sure that sometimes in our life, maybe our parents may have hit us a few times, they beat us, whatever. But I can guarantee you, the worst thing that came from your parents, the worst punishment, was that look they gave you. The one that said, I'm disappointed in you. Is there a worse punishment than that? So again, when I enter society, and again, I act a certain way, am I representing my parents in the right way? And now it gets very, very interesting. Because now I've not let myself down. I've let my parents down. And now people are going to say, who's the parents of this child? They didn't raise this child well. So the next thing we represent is our parents. But let's say, for example, again, you don't care about your parents. I think one thing we all care about in this room is our religion. How do we come across as Muslims? Now, when you look at different religions, and I am a religious education teacher, so I encounter all religions, I think about who represents each religion. I look at the Catholic Church and I see someone like the Pope, and I'm amazed by him and his words. I look at the Dalai Lama of the Buddhists, and I think what a man he is. And think about it, nearly every human being who has good values looks at the Dalai Lama and thinks this man is a good man. But unfortunately, in some circles, when you have to look at the representatives of Muslims, you see someone who looks like, Cyclops and other kind of things, and cartoon characters. And you think to yourself, really, is this the image of Islam I want to portray? Now, as we know, in the early 2000s, 9/11 took place. And those of you who were alive then, when the Twin Towers were hit by the planes, that was a big turning point in society, where we could say Islamophobia, this fear of Islam, it became quite open. Now, there were two ways to take this. We could either get very, very disheartened by it, and it is. But when I look at it now, I think, what a good opportunity. I have the opportunity to actually show what Islam is, without apologizing. And even today, every few months you see on the news a very big atrocity happening, and that group in the Middle East say it was us, okay, as they do. So, I think we look at this opportunity as a good way. Now, to be honest, luckily, as followers of the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, the thing is, this is not our problem. The people doing these acts aren't saying we are Shia. And now is the time, I believe, to be proud of the identity as a Shia Muslim if you are of that faith. Because, yes, of course there's unity. Of course we stand for the rights of other people. I'm not saying whatsoever a sectarian kind of thing there. What I am saying, though, is now is the time we must make it clear that the stuff we see in the parts of the world is not us. And what a chance that we have to do this. Because we can say, sorry, the people that they adhere to aren't the same that we adhere to. We follow a man called Imam Ali, we follow a man called Imam Hussain. And this then brings me to the first narration I gave, which is, for me, one of the most powerful narrations I've heard. And for me, I see it as a burden, where the Imam says to his followers, be an ornament for us. An ornament is a piece of jewelry. It makes you look good. All of us wear jewelry for either religious reasons or to make us look good. It's natural. The Imam is saying, make us look good. Then he says something quite scary, in my opinion. He says, don't disgrace us. And the third thing he says is, don't call people to us with your words. Call to us with your actions. So that when they look at you, they say you are a Jafari. So, my first point, the previous point for this, was to be proud of your faith. That's the first step. Okay? So we are proud to say we try to love and we try to follow the Imams. No doubt about it. Now the next step is, do I represent them? Now if I'm openly following the Imams, for example, I wear a necklace with the sword of Imam Ali on it. I wear a wristband over here that says I love Imam Hussain on it. I'm openly showing my faith now. But are my actions doing that? Or are my actions going to go against that? Because this is the burden we're carrying now, that every bad action that I do reflects upon the Imams. But on the flip side, every good action that I do reflects well upon them. So the next time you think about who you represent, is that you have to be very, very careful. Let's say I don't care about humanity, I don't care about my race, about my culture, about my gender, about any of that stuff, my parents. At the very least, you must care about the people that you follow. Because you are not bigger than them, and neither am I. And it's very important at this point home. And let's think about it. We have our ancestors, our Imams, who we adhere to, who sacrificed everything for us. Now, not in the Christian way, about dying for our sins, but they knew they're our followers, and they went through so much suffering for us. And I have to ask myself, am I someone who is disgracing that, or am I someone who is honouring it? With every action that I do, and there's two types of actions that we have. Some are public, some are private. Now, obviously, the private things that you do are between you and God. But once I enter the public, now it's different. You don't have just Allah watching you, you have everybody watching you. And as a Muslim, which you all are in this room today, the media is watching you. Every small thing you do, one mistake, it's over. Now, can you imagine that you, as a follower of the Ahlul Bayt, make a big mistake in society and it gets magnified? What have you done to the name of Imam Hussain? You've not let yourself down, you have let the Imams down. I find it fascinating that when I'm in school, I have to say things like, Muhammad, stop swearing. Ali, stop beating up Abbas. I feel bad saying that. A person called Muhammad is swearing. A person called Ali is beating someone up. These names we are given, it's our right. The fourth Imam says to us that the right of the child is a good name. Let's say, for example, I'm not Muslim, and I see a boy called Muhammad swearing. I know nothing about Islam. I might research the name Muhammad, and I think, oh my God. So this Muhammad they're named after must be like him as well. Do you actually want to disgrace the name of the Prophet just by your actions? So I speak to the young people and the elderly, if I may, in this talk. For the young people in school, you need to be the best behaved. I'm asking you from tomorrow onwards until you leave school to never ever get told off again. Because the moment someone says, Ali, be quiet. Muhammad, stop being rude. Hassan, listen to my instructions. You are disgracing those names you name after. You let yourself down, okay, that's fine. But you cannot let down the Imams. That's something you cannot do. And I fear for you if you do that. Because that is the biggest honor that you have. You're named after them and you follow them. So keep that in mind. But let's go one step further. Let's go to our other members of the community. Now, we know again we're in the spotlight as Muslims. And for example, for males I can say, it's not very obvious what religion you are. You can kind of hide it. If you have a beard, so do many other people. If you have a haircut, so do many other people. If you might dress another way, so do other people. But for the females, they're a bit more difficult. If you wear the headscarf, the hijab, you are clearly now a Muslim. But that does not mean the men can make the women look bad. So for example, I might be driving, and on my rear view mirror, I've got the tasbih there, and on the back of my car, I've got a sticker that says Ya Hussain. I'm clearly now a Muslim, I'm clearly now a Shia Muslim. So next time I'm driving and I start shouting and swearing at someone, okay, you let yourself down. You've got Imam Hussein's name in the back of your car, and it does be 99 names of God meant to go in there on the front. Who have you let down? Okay, you don't look Muslim. What about your family? Your wife, your sister, your daughter, your auntie might be wearing the hijab. So that man or that woman you scream at and road rage at, they're going to think these Muslims, they're angry people. Who do they follow? Oh, I see Hussein on the back. I mean, research Hussein. What have you done to Imam Hussein's name? Tell me. So we must be very, very careful in our public actions about how we portray the Imams, because the Imam has particularly said, be an ornament for us. Do not disgrace us whatsoever. Even little things, I'm not even going to go over here, but even little things like in our own community, when we leave the mosque, we have the neighbours next to us. Are we really being good to them by making noise, parking in their driveways? Of course, it's very good to see people here, and passionate, and trying to attend, no doubt about it. But the rights of your neighbours are very, very big. If you remember that very famous story of Fatima Zahra alayhi salam, where Imam Hussain alayhi salam went to see her, and he overheard her praying and making dua for all the neighbours. And then he asked her, what about us? She goes, no, neighbours first, then us. That's the right of your neighbour. So next time again, I might litter, and I might make noise at night. Have I represented the Imam in the correct way? You have to ask yourself this. Again, I might not care about myself, I might not care about my parents. You must care about the Imams though, I'm afraid. If that's what your faith is, you have to care about it. And that brings me to the next point. We do many, many things in our life, rites of passage, we pray 5 times a day, we go ziyarah, we go hajj, and at that time we make a vow to the Imam, I hope that I'm going to represent you well. And it's very, very important to keep this vow alive. It's not a ritual you do every year, every few years, every few months. It's something that has to move you. And I always find with people, I find it disheartening when people go to a pilgrimage and they come back not changed. They have to change for the better. Otherwise you've just done a tourist visit to the Imam. He doesn't need that. He wants you to go back and change. And I'm going to give you an example, a very famous example in history. You've got Imam Ali alayhi salam in one of the battles, and he's having a sword fight with an unbeliever. And the unbeliever says, can I have your sword? And the Imam says, here, take my sword. Now, I'm sure this person was like, he knew he was going to die very, very soon. He just thought, YOLO, and then he asked him for my sword. And he probably had the sword in his hand. I picture the scene. He's probably like, I've actually got his sword in my hand. He gave it to me. And he says to the Imam, why did you do this? We're fighting and you give me a sword. He goes, I'm too generous to say no to a person. And what did the man say? La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah alayhi wa sallam. Right there and then. Without Imam preaching to them, just by his actions, like his great-great-grandson said, to bring people towards you with your actions, the Imam did that. He didn't say, I believe in God, and here's a philosophical argument, and so on and so forth. He just said, you know what, I'm very, very generous. And straight away the man said, I want to follow the God that you follow. Are we doing this? Now remember, the Imams had a higher status, and the Prophets. They weren't representing and ambassadors for themselves. They were ambassadors for God. Can you imagine the burden on their shoulder? Yes, they're infallible, but don't think they're robots. Unfortunately, in our communities, we think that the Imams are like robots. They can't sin. They can sin. They choose not to sin, though. But they know the burden they are carrying. That if I make one tiny mistake, I make God look bad. We're on the step lower now. We are trying to represent the Imams. And I have to carry this on my shoulder in a very, very serious way. Because one bad move that I make, I have made Imam Hussain look bad. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine dying? And we've been to the seminars on death in the last couple of months. Can you imagine the angels asking you, you made Imam Hussain look bad. How can I forgive that? So every action that you do, be it good or be it bad, has an effect on other people. And it's vitally important that you represent the Imam in the best way possible, and the best way in Shia Islam. So, to wrap up, this is a story I heard a few years ago when I went to Karbala by a scholar. And this story really changed me, and it kind of sums up my talk today. So it goes, I'm not sure the full details, but the message I know is clear, that there was a man in Iran, and he was someone who arranged the ziyarah trips to Mashhad. So he was one of the organizers of the ziyarah. So every few months he'd organize people together, and he'd go and take people to ziyarah to Mashhad. And one day in his dream, he saw the 8th Imam. And the 8th Imam said to him, your next trip, I want you to bring Ibrahim the thief. So Ibrahim the thief was a man in the city who was known to be a very, very bad person. And he was a thief, a very, very crafty thief. And when the man woke up from this, he got, really, you want to bring a thief? But the Imam has spoken, let me hear him. So he got his group together, he went to Ibrahim the thief, and he said to Ibrahim, look, I think you should come to Mashhad with me today. He goes, well, me? I'm a thief. He goes, yeah, but just come Mashhad with me, I need your help. The man thought, okay, free trip, let's go. On the way, this is before cars, they were traveling on the road to Mashhad, and at night, some highway thieves came and looted them. They took all their belongings, and they ran away. At this moment in time, the leader of the group was very stressed. He goes, I've got all this stuff, it's gone, what we're going to do. And he saw Ibrahim laughing. And he goes, Ibrahim, why are you laughing? He goes, well, while they were looting you, I took their stuff. And then this man goes to him, Imam was right about you. He goes, what are you talking about? He goes, no, Imam was right about you. He goes, what are you talking about? He goes, a few days ago, I had a dream, and the 8th Imam came into my dream, and he said to me to bring Ibrahim the thief with you. And when he said that, the man's face changed, Ibrahim. Ibrahim was, wait, repeat that again. What did he call me? Because he called you Ibrahim the thief. This man was a Shia, by the way, who was a thief. And he goes, Imam called me a thief. He goes, take me to Mashhad right now. Let's go. It said they ran to Mashhad very, very quickly. And as soon as he got to the shrine, he tied himself to the shrine and said, Imam, you called me a thief. So I ask you that if the Imam, in about a few minutes' time, you do the ziyarah to the Imam, when you say as-salam to him, is he going to reply with your salam by saying, wa alaikum as-salam, my ornament, my honor? Or is he going to say to you, wa alaikum as-salam, but you're a disgrace? And what do you think the Imam is going to name you if you ever see him? It's something to think about, and it's something I advise myself before anybody else, and it's something you must be conscious of. And I said, we've got Islamophobia in society, but take it as a good challenge. Life is a test. This is our test today. Can I react and show who our leaders are? Whether you're in school, work, any form of living in society, you must represent the Imam in the correct way. And think about this all the time. Would my Imam be happy? Am I making him look good or making him look bad? As I said, if you don't represent yourself, fine, but do not let down the Imam. We pray to Allah to bless this gathering and ask Allah to accept this. And one thing I do want to say before I get off the podium, this is not having a go at anybody. When I sit on the audience sometimes, I get sometimes disheartened when I see speakers and scholars, with my utmost respect, when they say, Ya Allah, protect the Muslims, Ya Allah, help the Muslims, and the Muslims. And I sometimes think to myself, this Allah that we believe in, is he the God for just Muslims or for other people? Because last time I checked, when our Prophet went to Taif, and they stoned him till he bled, he said to Allah, Ya Allah, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. Forgive my people, he said. He called them my people. They stoned him till he bled, said, Ya Allah, forgive my people. Last time I checked, the mother of Wahab couldn't give birth. Didn't Imam Ali pray for her to have a baby? He was Wahab, and where did he go? To Karbala. He prayed for a Christian. And one hadith comes to mind, Hadith al-Qudsi, about Prophet Musa. Musa was in his house, he was known to be generous. Someone knocked on his door and said to him, can I have something to eat? I'm really, really hungry. Musa said, of course. The man came in, they sat down, Prophet Musa gave him some food to eat. And the man, without doing anything, he started eating the food very quickly. Prophet Musa said, look, I know you're hungry, but in my house we thank Allah first before we eat our food. And he said, this God you believe in, Allah you believe in, doesn't exist. And he carried on eating. Musa got quite disheartened, and he went and left. Musa went to the Mount Sinai, where he used to speak to Allah. He could speak to Allah if you remember. Kalim Allah, his name is. And Allah asked him, what's going on? You look a bit upset. Paraphrasing, obviously. And Prophet Musa said, no, it's nothing. He goes, no, tell me. You look upset. What happened? And Prophet Musa narrated this story. He goes, I let a man in. I tried to tend to thank you about the food, and he said you don't exist. And it really, really hurt me. And he goes, Ya Musa, he might not be my servant, but I'm still his Lord. So how about next time when you raise your hands, of course you pray for Muslims, of course you pray for your Shia brothers and sisters. But at the same time, why don't you pray for humanity? Maybe because Ya Allah, bless the people who are sincere. Because sincerity is a common theme in the Quran. And I can guarantee you, and I say it very confidently in my experience, there are some people who are not Muslim who are more sincere than us Muslims sometimes. And do work for God more than some of us do sometimes. So how about Ya Allah, who bless all humanity, who want to be blessed? And Ya Allah, how about the people who are misguided? How about you guide them to the right path? And maybe if we pray for humanity a bit more, rather than our own circles, maybe the world might become a better place, and we break down these barriers of these labels that we have, and the world will be a better place. Thank you for inviting me, and apologize if I said anything wrong. Assalamu alaikum.